The past is never truly buried. It lies in wait, anticipating the right hands to unearth its secrets. Terrence stood at the edge of a colossal underground chamber, the glow from his helmet visor illuminating the ancient structure that loomed before him. His heart raced as his fingers lightly grazed the metallic surface of the artifact that lay before him, a relic from a time nearly forgotten by humanity, a time before the Exodus, when Earth still thrived. Behind him, a small group awaited in silence, their anticipation palpable. They were humanity's last stand, hidden away on the fringes of the galaxy, concealed on a planet that remained invisible to prying eyes. The Galactic Union believed them to be extinct, a threat obliterated to preserve peace. But the discovery of the capsule altered everything. Is it really it? Thomas asked, stepping closer to Terrence. His voice was rough, his skeptical gaze scanning the device with a soldier's scrutiny. Thomas had seen more battles than Terrence had years on this earth, and his skepticism was as much a part of him as his battle scars. Terrence nodded, determination coursing through him. It's real. He pressed the activation panel, and with a mechanical hum, the capsule sprang open. Holographic displays flickered to life, revealing intricate data streams that scrolled by, showcasing blueprints and historical records. At the center of it all was a recording, a human figure, an older man with a lab coat, whose voice resonated throughout the chamber. If you're seeing this, it means the worst has happened. The Galactic Union has destroyed Earth. They feared us, feared what we could become. And they were right to fear. A murmur rippled through the group. They had always known Earth was gone, but the reasons for its destruction had faded into obscurity, scattered fragments of old legends and war stories. Terrence clenched his fists as the figure continued. Project Resurrection was our contingency plan, the blueprint for humanity's survival. Advanced weaponry, medical advancements, technology that will give us a fighting chance. But it must be used wisely. We cannot repeat our past mistakes. The urgency in the figure's voice ignited a fire within Terrence. It was no longer just about survival. It was a call for resurgence, a way to reclaim what had been lost. Thomas grunted, crossing his arms. So, what now? The group was divided. Some among them had grown comfortable, hidden away from the eyes of the Union, and the idea of rebuilding in peace was tempting. But Terrence knew better. This was not merely a fight for survival, it was about retribution. We have the means to fight, Terrence said, his voice steady and resolute. We can't just sit here and wait. They'll find us eventually. Another man, Jackson, interjected. And then what? Thomas stepped forward, his eyes locked on Jackson. They wiped us out once. Do you think they'll hesitate to do it again? Terrence raised a hand, demanding silence. We'll take this to the council. We'll decide together. But even as he said it, he understood the inevitable outcome. Humanity had been driven to the brink, and this time, they wouldn't be pushed again. The council meeting was tense, the leaders of the remaining human settlements gathering around a large table, holograms from the capsule flickering at the center. Debates erupted, voices overlapping in heated discussions. Peace is the only way, argued one elder, his voice strained by age. We've been hiding for years. We have a chance to rebuild here. And what happens when they find us? Thomas snapped, pacing at the far end of the room. They'll exterminate us. We have one shot at this, and this technology gives us the edge. Terrence remained mostly silent, listening intently. The arguments were valid, but as the recording replayed in his mind, he felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down on him. The decision wasn't just about survival, it was about justice. Enough! Terrence's voice cut through the noise, commanding attention. He stood tall, facing the council. "We don't have the luxury of peace. The Galactic Union didn't just destroy Earth, they obliterated our future. Project Resurrection gives us the tools to fight back and make them pay." Silence enveloped the room as the elders exchanged glances. Some nodded slowly, while others frowned in doubt. Thomas met Terrence's gaze and offered a small nod. The council wouldn't vote tonight, but Terrence sensed that this was the start of something monumental. "Prepare the fleet," he instructed quietly as he exited the chamber. The time for hiding was over. On the bridge of the lead ship, Terrence observed the stars as they zipped by, the fleet cutting through the fabric of space. Years of preparation had culminated in this moment. The technology derived from Project Resurrection had revolutionized their forces, ships that could evade Union detection and weapons powerful enough to challenge their defenses. Now, the time to act had arrived. "How long until we reach the target?" Terrence inquired, turning to his navigation officer. 20 minutes, the officer replied. "Union headquarters is lightly defended. They don't expect an attack this deep in their territory." Thomas stood beside him, arms crossed, a hint of a smirk on his lips. They've grown complacent, too sure of themselves. Terrence's jaw tightened. "Good. They won't see this coming." The plan was straightforward: strike at the heart of the Galactic Union. Their intelligence had pinpointed a key outpost, the hub of the Union's command structure. If they could seize it, they would send a clear message across the galaxy: humanity was not dead, they were back. "All units, prepare for combat," Terrence ordered, adrenaline surging through him. "This is it. We hit them fast, we hit them hard." The fleet moved into position, and Terrence watched as the massive station materialized in the void, a sleeping beast unaware of the storm about to descend upon it. "Launch the assault," he commanded. Missiles streaked through the darkness, followed by the hum of energy weapons. The Union's defenses flared to life, but it was too late. The first wave of attacks tore through their outer perimeter, ripping apart their shields. Alarms blared on the station as the humans closed in. "Boarding teams, go!" Thomas barked into his comms. Moments later, pods shot from the ships, slamming into the station's hull. Terrence felt the rush of adrenaline as he watched the battle unfold. Explosions rocked the outpost, and Union ships scrambled to respond, disorganized and caught off guard. "They didn't expect this," Thomas said with a grin. "Not from us," Terrence replied. "Let's keep it that way." On the screen, the boarding teams breached the station, cutting through the remaining defenses. Humanity was leaving its mark, and the Union was beginning to falter. But Terrence understood this was just the beginning. The war they were igniting now would shape the galaxy's future. The Union wouldn't go down without a fight. Inside the station, chaos erupted. Union soldiers scrambled to mount a defense, but their ranks were quickly breached. Terrence monitored the live feed from the boarding teams, watching as his men advanced with purpose, cutting down any resistance in their path. "Push forward," Thomas shouted through the comms. "Secure the command center. We need their control systems." With each step deeper into the station, the weight of the moment settled on Terrence's shoulders. They were no longer mere survivors, they were fighters. Each inch gained was a reclamation of their destiny. Yet, he knew the Union wouldn't capitulate easily. Explosions rang out as the humans advanced. Terrence gripped the edge of the command console, keenly aware of the enemy regrouping, desperate to mount a counteroffensive. "We have to move fast," he urged. "If they organize, we could be in trouble." "Understood." "Let's sweep the area," Thomas replied, motioning to a squad of soldiers. They navigated through the wreckage, the acrid scent of burnt metal filling the air. As they turned a corner, they stumbled upon a group of Union soldiers. The ensuing firefight erupted in a chaotic flurry of energy bolts and shouts. Terrence and Thomas took cover behind a bulkhead, firing back. "Watch your flanks," Terrence yelled, peeking around the corner to assess the situation. The Union soldiers fought fiercely, but desperation seeped into their ranks. They were losing ground. "Fall back to the central corridor," Thomas ordered, leading his men, forcing the Union soldiers back, step by step. Terrence felt the tide turning. Each victory fueled their resolve. They weren't just reclaiming a building, they were proving their worth to the galaxy. After what felt like hours, the team reached the heavy doors of the command center. They were battered, out of breath, but exhilarated. "Prepare to breach," Terrence commanded, adrenaline surging through him. "On three," he called. 1, 2, 3. The door blasted open, and they surged inside. The atmosphere in the command center shifted. Union officers scrambled at their consoles, eyes wide with disbelief. Terrence stepped forward, gun raised. "Freeze! This is a military operation under the authority of humanity." The officers hesitated, panic evident in their eyes. Thomas advanced, his voice cold and steady. "You've underestimated us for too long. Surrender, and you might live to tell the tale." One officer, clearly the highest ranking, raised his hand slowly. We can negotiate," he stammered, fear etched across his face. Terrence stepped closer, his resolve hardening. "Negotiate? You think we're here for talks? You've silenced our voices, destroyed our home. This is about reclaiming what's rightfully ours." The officer's eyes darted around the room, and in that moment, Terrence saw the flicker of desperation. "We can make a deal," he pleaded. But Terrence shook his head, heart racing. "Your union is built on lies and violence. We're not here to negotiate, we're here to take back our future." As the standoff continued, an alarm blared, signaling an imminent lockdown. "We have to move," Terrence shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "Secure the facility," Thomas ordered, rallying the troops. "We need control of their systems before we lose this opportunity." The team spread out, capturing key positions within the command center. Terrence fought against the urge to celebrate their success too soon. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. He moved to a console, fingers flying over the interface. "We need access to their fleet controls. Disable their ships before they can retaliate." "I'm on it," one of the tech specialists shouted back, diving into the interface. As he worked, Terrence's thoughts raced. This was their chance to strike a blow against an enemy that had held them captive for too long. They could cripple the Union's capabilities, send a shockwave through their ranks. "Almost there," the specialist announced, sweat trickling down his brow. Outside, the sounds of battle raged on, and Terrence could feel the tension mounting. Union reinforcements would be on their way, and if they didn't secure their victory quickly, it could turn against them. "Do it now!" Terrence urged, heart pounding. With a final keystroke, the console beeped loudly, the lights flickering. "Fleet controls disabled. They can't launch a counteroffensive." Cheers erupted among the ranks, but Terrence held up a hand. "Don't celebrate yet. We have to hold this position and prepare for the worst." "Reinforcements will come," Thomas said, glancing at the door. "We should set up defenses." Terrence nodded, eyes scanning the room. The Union would be desperate to regain control, and they would attack with everything they had. Prepare for incoming hostiles. Make sure we have eyes on every entrance. The minutes dragged on, each second stretching painfully. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut, every soldier ready to fight to the last breath. Terrence steeled himself, recalling the faces of those who had been lost, those who had given everything in the fight for survival. Then, the doors blasted open, and Union soldiers surged through, guns blazing. The humans retaliated with fierce determination. Energy bolts flew, ricocheting off the walls, and shouts echoed as they clashed. Terrence found himself in the thick of it, instincts taking over as he fought for every inch. "Push them back," he shouted, rallying his team. "Don't let them take this ground." With a mix of courage and desperation, the humans fought. Each Union soldier that fell was a testament to their struggle, their unwillingness to be crushed again. But the Union was relentless, a tide of soldiers pouring in, each one a desperate bid to reclaim control. As the firefight raged, Terrence's resolve only deepened. They were fighting not just for survival but for vengeance, an opportunity to rewrite their history. The Galactic Union had taken too much. Now it was time to reclaim their legacy. "Regroup," he called out, his voice rising above the chaos. "Hold the line." But the pressure mounted, and Terrence could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The tide was turning, and they were outnumbered. "We need to get to the backup systems," he shouted to Thomas, who was by his side. "Right," Thomas agreed, and they pushed toward the rear of the command center, hoping to hold off the onslaught long enough to secure their position. They reached a secondary control room, barricading the door behind them. "Can you get these systems online?" Terrence asked, eyes darting over the controls. "I'll try," Thomas replied, fingers flying over the keys. "If we can get the backup shields activated, we might hold them off long enough." The door shook as Union soldiers battered against it, and Terrence's heart raced. "Hurry," he urged, the sound of gunfire echoing in the background. They couldn't afford to fail now. As Thomas worked furiously at the console, Terrence stood guard, weapon ready. With every impact against the door, he felt the weight of the world pressing on him. The fight for their survival hung in the balance, and he wouldn't let them down. "Almost there," Thomas shouted, sweat beading on his forehead. The door splintered under the relentless assault, and Terrence braced himself, adrenaline flooding his veins. "Get ready!" With one final push, the door burst open, and Union soldiers flooded into the room. Terrence fired, his heart pounding as he fought back against the tide, determined to protect the last hope for humanity. "Now!" Thomas yelled, and a surge of energy lit up the room as the backup systems activated, the shields enveloping them in a protective barrier. "Hold your ground," Terrence shouted, pushing forward. The barrier held for now, but he could feel the strain as the Union pressed their attack, desperate to breach their defenses. As they continued to fight, Terrence knew they were on the precipice of something monumental. They had pushed back against the darkness, igniting a fire that had been dormant for far too long. And as the battle raged on, he realized that this was only the beginning of their struggle, a struggle that would reshape the very fabric of their existence. The Galactic Union may have thought them extinct, but they were far from it. They were humanity's last stand, and they would reclaim their destiny, no matter the cost.